Hello and welcome to today's webinar, an overview of Ciphyr's new talent management and succession planning functionality. My name's Cathryn Newbery and I'm Ciphyr's content marketing editor. With me today is Claire Williams, Ciphyr's Director of People and Services. Welcome Claire, it's great to have you with us today.
Hi there, thanks so much.
If you don't know Ciphr, we're a leading UK developer of HR, recruitment and learning software that helps organisations to attract, engage and retain their workforces more effectively. Our solutions cover the entire employee lifecycle, from attraction and recruitment through to engagement, development, management, reward and retention. If you'd like to find out more about Ciphr's solutions, you can opt in to hear from us via the survey at the end of the webinar or email us using the address on your screen now. If you have any questions, comments and queries during the broadcast, use the small control panel on your screen to open the messaging window and send them through to us as they come in. If you miss anything or have to leave the broadcast at any time, don't worry, everyone who is registered will receive a link shortly after this broadcast ends to an on-demand version that you can watch at any time or share with your colleagues if you think they'll be interested. We're going to kick off today's broadcast with a poll, just asking you, how do you currently manage performance management? So we have 5 options for you to choose from: in a central HR system, in a separate performance management system, in a performance management system that's linked to your HR system, with manual paper, Word, Excel, forms and records, or through some other system. Claire, in your experience, how are HR professionals often managing performance?
I think there's still a high population of HR professionals that are managing that through manual paper, Word, Excel, forms, although typically more of that is being now held in a central HR system, but I think there's still a very low proportion that have specific performance management systems in hand.
Okay, thanks for that. Just waiting for the results to come in and I'm going to close them. So 68% of people said they are using manual paper, Word or Excel forms. 16% of you said you are using your central HR system. So yeah, good to have you with us today, and hopefully you can find out a little bit more about how Ciphr's tools can help. So I'm just going to change presenter and hand over to Claire, as she's going to take us through the overview of Ciphr's new performance management functionality.
Okay, perfect. So I am going to give an overview of the new talent management and succession planning functionality in Ciphr. This has been designed by HR professionals and is bringing together all areas of performance and talent management and succession assessment and planning. So for the benefit of any existing customers on the webinar today, this has been built on the existing reviews module and has expanded and enriched this functionality quite significantly to encompass all areas of talent management. And this will enable you to talent plan from an individual career perspective through to enterprise-wide planning. As we all know, a robust talent management and succession planning framework can foster several benefits. So including to gain a deeper knowledge and understanding of your people, so their needs, personal goals, strengths and weaknesses. By utilising a software-based system, your performance and review information is more secure and easier to audit. So as we all know, in a post-GDPR world, this is quite imperative. We've built into the software the ability to have automated workflows. So this will ensure that your performance management processes are always on track, with appraisals and reviews being carried out on schedule. So there's less of the need to manually chase up managers on a regular basis or employees. We have a robust review and objective setting process that will help you develop employees' potential in line with strategic organisational goals as opposed to just individual goals. And as we know, better talent management adds value to your employer brand and contributes to diversity management. So following the gender pay gap reporting being introduced, the direction of travel indicates that more reporting around diversity will come in at some point. We've then got the 9-box grid functionality, so that helps you identify those that are ready to advance into new roles, and those people who might need additional development and support. We've also got the ability to highlight individuals at risk, so with our succession risk, with our flight risk analysis, and this is looking at the risk and impact ratings of individuals to help you identify roles and build critical talent pools in advance, which again should feed into more intelligent succession planning and help you fill critical vacancies more quickly. Also worth noting that Ciphr, the talent management module, integrates fully with Ciphr's people management functionality. So that will deliver more accurate data, helping you make more intelligent evidence-based decisions, and also links in with our Ciphr learning module to help you have a more holistic approach to developing your people. I believe Cathryn has also made a handout available so that it gives you an overview of the talent management module and the benefits in particular. Okay, so let's just go straight into the demo. Okay, so here you should be able to see a screenshot of our employee dashboard, and this is typically what the Ciphr interface looks like. We have all of the menu options at the top, and it's worth just mentioning that all of these menu options and all of the drop downs, the orders, all of that can be configured to meet your individual requirements. So you can, yeah, that's better. So you can change all of the menu options to reflect whatever your internal terminology might be. You can have them set up in a different order, in different groupings, whatever you might like. But we've gone ahead and just set up a specific talent management menu. And here you can see this gives an overview of the modules and the functionality we're going to be covering today. So we've got the overall talent dashboard, the employee dashboard that you can see in the background there, objectives, peer reviews, succession planning, and then the configuration area. And that will take you into the area where you can set up the company goals, the individual review forms, and the review types. Okay, so going straight into company goals. So here you can create as many company goals as you like. Fairly self-explanatory. They are goals that are linked to your strategic objectives at a company-wide level. It gives you a basic overview on this screen of those that are currently enabled, the description, when those were set, obviously if they've been completed at any point, and any notes. And as I've mentioned, there's the enabled category. So if you are currently setting up what your strategic objectives might be for 2020, you could go ahead and create those goals now, but wait to enable them until 1st of Jan, for example. You can then see we've got the Insert New button at the bottom, and that's where you would just create any new company goals that you want to create. Very simple screen with regards to the information that you're capturing at this stage, a description of what that goal is, the date that it's been set, and as you would have seen on the summary screen, when it's completed, any notes, and obviously if that's enabled. From here, you can then feed into individual objectives. So this is one of several screens whereby you can access individual objectives and create individual objectives for any of your employees. It will list all the objectives that have ever been created for employees during their career. And you can obviously see, for example, one that's been completed. So you'll just have a record of that there. It's, again, very much a summary screen at this stage with regards to those objectives, the target date and the date that was raised. Again, we've got the Insert New button, and that would then take you into this screen where you can go ahead and add more details. So working from the top left down and then over to the right and down, we've got the date it was raised and the description of that objective, and then company goals. And this is where you would link any of those company goals that you've previously created. It's a simple drop down when you select that box, and you can attach multiple goals to any of the objectives that are raised. And this gives you the ability to, from our reporting perspective, you can obviously report on anything that's captured within Ciphr, specifically within the talent management as well. But you can look to report at both the company goals level to look at where those goals have filtered down to team level, as well as reporting on individual objectives and progress. Below that, you've got the development needs. So this is where you can set up and create any identified development needs for employees. You would do that in the specific development needs area. But here again, it would be a drop down of any of those needs that have already been identified and may link in specifically to that objective. Same with the job requirements. The job requirements are typically set up against the post. So for example, if you might have a company accountant, they may require specific accountancy qualifications. And again, if any of those objectives are linked towards them achieving those job requirements, you could make sure they're included there. Skills, same again. So that might be there may be a skill linked to, say, language. You could select any of the skills that are associated with the objective. You have the option to then add comments, both from the job holder comments and the reviewer comments over on the right-hand side. And up on the top right, you've then just got some additional basic information around the target date, once that's completed, and the objective completed date. Once that objective has then been created, you have the ability throughout the life cycle of that objective to then add some tracking notes. So you can go in and populate that with the percentage progress, the date that tracking note was created, and then any specific notes in relation to that. So again, you've always got visibility of how progress is with that note, with that objective, and they can be added at any point by either the employee or the manager. Okay, so that's the company goals and then how they link into objectives. Now we're going to look at the review forms themselves. So the forms, all of this is obviously kind of around the configuration before we launch into actually looking at how that then comes through from a user perspective. The review forms are essentially e-forms. So you have the ability to create as many forms as you would like. We've got a typical set of forms here that you might expect to see with regards to annual appraisals, check-in forms, self-appraisals, but we've also got some examples of other forms you might use as part of your HR processes, such as exit interviews and probation reviews. So you can use this functionality in other processes you have within your organisation to add benefit or efficiencies. The way the forms work in practice is that for any review type you create, so let's use an appraisal as a prime example, you would use a base form for all parties to complete. So that may be in an annual appraisal you have an employee, a manager and a peer, and you might want all three of them to complete that base form. You can then, so it's the same set of questions, the same set of forms for all three of those individuals to complete. You can then attach additional forms that include questions that are specific to each of those parties. So again, in an employee appraisal, the employee would complete a base form that everyone's completing, and then go on to complete, for example, employee self-appraisal, or the manager may complete a career questionnaire. So you build up the forms, and you can create as many forms as you like to then create a full review type, which I'll show you in a moment. Okay, so this is then a screenshot of how you would go about setting up a review form to give you an overview of the functionality within this. So on the left-hand side, you can see that there are 3 sections we've created here. You can create as many sections as you like, and you can create as many questions within those sections as you like. So we've gone for a fairly simple 3-section approach here, and this is for our base appraisal form. Successes and achievements, overall performance and performance rating. Within the screen itself, in overall performances we've got as an example, you're obviously including any descriptive text around the title, and then additional text that could form part of an instructions or guidance around how to use that form. And you then have the questions. So you'll see here we've got the first one being 5-star rating as the type of question. There are various different question types you could look to use. So there's ratings and ranges, there's free text, there's logical, so yes, no, multi-select, a prioritization list, a drop-down select one option. So it gives you lots of flexibility around the types of questions you'll be looking for and how you might think about measuring the responses of those across the board. You'll also see directly underneath the rating 5-star type that there's an including dashboard slider. So when you're selecting ratings or ranges, you can also decide if you want the answers to those questions to be included as part of the overall employee dashboard data. And this might be linked to key achievements, key performance stats, anything that you consider to be highlights of that review process that you want to drill down into or get a snapshot of quite easily. So that's how you would go about creating a form. And then you would move on to building the form type. So I mentioned that there is a base form approach to this process. So we've created a new review type here, which we're calling our annual appraisal. And I'm going to work down from the top left and then middle from top to bottom, and then right from top to bottom to give you an overview of all of these functionality. So we've got the description, annual appraisal. We've then got, if we want the 9-box grid rating enabled. So by enabling that, it will create a screen at the end of the review for the manager only, to assess what they consider to be the employee's 9-box grid rating. So we're looking at potential and performance there, and that will then feed into our 9-box grid. You then select the base form you want to use. Again, we're using our base appraisal form for this example. And then it goes down with sliders to select who you want to be included as part of this appraisal process or this review type process. So we've enabled all 3. We've got the employee, the manager and the peer completing this review. And if we just move over to the middle column now, we've then got if we want to include objectives. So again, this creates another screen as part of the process when you're going through the work stream that will bring up the objectives and the ability for the employee and the manager to rate how successfully they have achieved those objectives in the 12-month period prior to the annual appraisal, for example. We've also got flight risk enabled. We then move down to whether we want the employee, manager or peer to complete ad hoc reviews. So that basically enables any of those parties to kickstart that process at any point in time. We're saying this is an annual appraisal, therefore you naturally assume we don't want that to be completed any time of the year. There's likely to be a window in which they're due to complete it, and that would therefore need to be kicked off by a system administrator or typically one of the HR team members. We then over moving to the right, we've got include job requirements. So I mentioned previously, for example, if there's an accountant, they need accountancy qualifications or any sort of specific skills, etc. You can include those job requirements if you want to as part of the process. And then below that, we've got the additional forms that we want individuals to complete as part of this process. So for employees, we also want them to do an employee self-appraisal. Managers, we want to complete a manager appraisal, and for the peers, we want them to also do a peer review. So I will then go on to show you in a moment how that looks in practice. This gives you an overview of all the review types that have been created. So you can see our annual appraisal there, and it gives a summary of what elements have been enabled. So as we've said, we've enabled all of the options with regards to 9box, peer reviews, manager reviews, and employee reviews. And then we're going to jump back to the employee dashboard. So we are logged in as an HR administrator at the moment, and we're looking specifically at our employee Richard Adam. And this then gives you a snapshot of the dashboard of data in relation to annual appraisals. So you'll see below the summary tab that there is a drop down here where we've selected annual appraisals. So you can either do this dashboard summary on all review types completed, or you can select the specific reviews that they've completed so that you can look at a history of the data in relation to, in this case, annual appraisals. Gives you a summary of data with regards to next review, when certain objectives are due to be completed by. We also have functionality around the system so that you can capture things like kudos points if they've acquired new skills or any new development needs, and they're also reflected over on the pie chart view on the since last review screen. So there's either a count or there would be a pie chart approach there. Below that, you've got latest sections. So where I mentioned previously, when you're setting up a questions in the review form that you can select if you want it to be included in the dashboard, this is where it would then show up from a snapshot perspective. So it just gives you an overview of, against that specific question, what is the performance or what is the rating that's been given. And then again, if we had more historical data in the system, you would be able to see the sections history down on the bottom right. So we're then going to move over from the summary tab here into the reviews tab. And this is where you would be able to drill down to have a look at the review records that have been completed for that individual. So here we can see the annual appraisal that was completed for Richard Adams, and the reviewer name Paul Green being his line manager. Also gives you an overview of the potential performance rating and the overall performance. If I click into that record, you can then see the individual again, records that have been completed by each party. So again, if there had been a peer review, you would see the peer review appear in here. So we've got the employee record at the top here. The reviewer was Rich Adam, and then the one below is Paul Green. So we're going to go in and have a look at that review that we've created, completed by Paul Green, so that you can see how that is viewed from a user perspective. So here you can see along the top there is a bar with the essentially milestones which represent the different sections and the different review forms that were built up as part of that process. So we've got the first three being the successes and achievements, the overall performance and the performance rating, which were the sections in the base form. On from that is career progression, and that's the form that we associated specifically for the manager to complete as part of this process. We've then got objectives. And then we've got the manager questions, which is the 9box grid and the flight risk assessment that we've previously referred to. So we would simply click through those sections, and it's just showing you an overview of what was filled in as part of that process. Here were the questions that were specifically posed towards the manager. So we've made them more specific from that person. So how do you see your employee role developing over the next 12 months? The objectives, so this lists all open objectives. So if you've still got objectives open from a couple of years ago, they will all be listed here, and it gives you the ability to rate how those objectives have gone to date. We are working on further development to expand this section to allow comments or the ability to go in and close objectives if they've then been completed. As it stands, it's just the ability to rate them, and that's rated by, again, all the employee and the manager during the process. And then the manager question. So if you're not familiar, 9box grid, as we said, is based on potential and performance, and then that then calculates where they sit in the 9box grid. So it's a simple low, medium and high approach to both boxes that the manager would select. Worth noting, if I didn't earlier, this is not viewable by the employee. The employee can't see the results unless you wanted to make that readily available to them. Again, you don't have to make this available to managers. It could be a piece of functionality that is retained for only the system administrators or a select group of employees, such as the senior management team or the board. Flight risk is the same, so we're rating How would we rate their flight risk? What's the likelihood there? Is that low, medium or high? And then the impact of that flight risk. So if they were to leave, is that likely again to be a low, medium or high impact? And that feeds into the grid again, so you can get a snapshot of where you might have high risk employees that are looking to potentially leave. Going back to the employee dashboard then, along this top tab, we've selected objectives. So again, as I mentioned, there's several ways how you can go about accessing employee objectives. This is just another one. So if you weren't looking to jump into any of the specific reviews, but you wanted to just go through objectives and include an update, you would do it on this screen. We've then got skills and development needs. Okay, so that's the view from an employee, from an HR user setup perspective, from an employee, and then also a talent dashboard. So this talent dashboard can be used either as a manager, looking at all of those within their hierarchical structure, or it could be that you're looking at it as an HR user or maybe one of the board members to look at the entire organisation. To be clear, any information that the manager is looking at will only relate to any of their direct reports or any of the team members within that structure. So they won't have visibility of any other team members unless you want to give them permission to do so. So the talent dashboard gives you an overview. Again, as you can see under the dashboard tab at the top there, you've got performance ratings. So we're looking at all the employees that have completed a performance rating review type. So that's purely looking at their performance, their 9-box grid rating, etc. It gives you an overview of the employee that relates to, who's completed that review, and then their potential and performance ratings. And from that, we've got those that are pending. So again, you can select the review type or just leave it blank, and this is therefore showing all the employees in the organisation that have yet to complete or have a pending review outstanding, and just gives you an overview of what has yet to be completed. And then we go on to the 9-box grid. So this is where it pulls together all of the information with regards to how you've rated your employees with regards to their potential and their performance. Worth noting that all of the information here can be configured to meet your needs. So the title, for example, top right, we've got consistent star, and that's you should mentor or delegate responsibility to. You are able to change the titles of all of these boxes, again, using your own internal or preferred language, and the description. And you can also change all of the colours. So you can configure it to meet your style or your brand. And this, as I've said, pulls together all the data in relation to the employees that you have permission to view. So again, as a manager, it would just show all of those within the hierarchical structure below them. Or as an HR user, for example, it would potentially give you access to all the 9-box grid ratings for the entire organisation. If you click into any of those boxes, so for example, we have selected the consistent star box, it will bring up a list of the employees that fall into that box on the right hand side there. So we've got Gwenda, for example, who is a consistent star, and the little 9 in her box indicates the overall rating she's been given. As time goes on and more 9-box grid ratings are completed against her record, that will show a history of the last few review records and the calculations she's been given. Again, from here, you could select on Gwenda, and that will take you into her individual record, so you can start to look more at her specific development plan or her previous appraisals. From here, we've also got the flight risk. Again, calculated in the same way and configurable in the same way, so you can change the descriptions and you can change the colours, and as you select the boxes, it will then give you an overview of the employees that fall into those categories. So this is both of these screens are a really easy way for you to start looking at the succession planning within your organisation. Specifically within the 9-box grid, obviously you're looking at trying to get as many people out of that bottom left talent risk category, and that you're developing performance and potential, and this helps you prioritise those where you need to invest more work in. Or it's obviously looking at those that are consistent stars, current stars, future stars, that may link heavily into your flight risk grid, to think about retention methods or where you need to start building up talent pools for those that are going to have a high impact should they leave. Okay, and then on to the actual succession planning area of the system. So in this area, you're able to select the employees you want to start building up a talent pool for. Again, you can make this available to whoever you want to within the organisation, although I would suggest this is typically more of a HR user or senior management team functionality. So you can insert new records, fairly simple process. I think the next screen shows, yeah, it's just a case of inserting a record and selecting the job title. That's all you need to start a talent pool. And that will then give you a list of those that you've created, when that was created, and basic information around the job title, job number, and department. When you go into one of those records, it will present you with this screen. In this screen, what it will automatically do is look at the distribution manager post, as we've got in this example, and it will look at all of its direct reports to see if they need to automatically fill that talent pool. Now, this is within your control as system administrators to decide the criteria of that. So it may be that you say, yes, I want all of their direct reports to automatically populate that talent pool. Or it might be you say, actually, they need to meet a minimum potential and performance criteria to then populate it. So you may say, we want the upper right quadrant of the 9-box grid only to populate the talent pool for that particular role. And here you can see a list of the employees that form part of this talent pool currently. Gives you basic information with regards to their name and job, their current job. It also gives you the date they started in that role and the date they started with the organisation, and an overview of their latest ratings with regards to flight risk and their 9-box grid. From here, you can also go in and select their readiness. So here you're simply saying how ready do you think they are to potentially succeed that role. So we've got, for example, that we think they're ready now, that they might be ready in 1 to 2 years or 2 to 3 years. And again, you can set up as many readiness time frames as you like. So you might want to go as far out as 10 to 15 years. It's completely within your control. You are also able to add additional successors here that might fall outside of the hierarchical structure of the post you're referring to. This, again, at the moment is only available for system administrators to do, and that's mainly from a data protection perspective. So we don't currently want managers to be able to go and look up some of this sensitive data with regards to any other individual within the organisation. So again, it would be limited access with regards to who could do that. But once they're set up, the manager would then be able to see that someone else has been added. They wouldn't be able to see any of the personal detail, but they would be able to see that more successors have been added to that talent pool. So it gives you flexibility around there to start building up your potential successors, and you can then be working, from a roll up. So it might be you say, right, Gwenda, brilliant, she's our next transport manager. Actually, we need to start creating a talent pool for that role, and you can just build it out from there. And this is a great way for you to start thinking about future talent planning, and as we've mentioned before, being able to react more quickly with regards to filling critical roles and making sure you're identifying any risks in relation to people that may be leaving. Only other thing to mention is when you're adding a successor, you have the ability to filter those. So you might be an HR professional again coming in to add a successor for that distribution manager. And what you could do is say, right, we're happy to look at the entire population of employees, but we want them to have a minimum potential rating of medium, and it will just start to shortlist that for you. So if you are looking outside of that hierarchical structure, it will just mean you can drill it down slightly so that you're not looking at potentially hundreds or thousands of employees. Okay, and that is an overview of our new talent management functionality.
Thank you very much, Claire, for that excellent overview of those tools. We hope that you found it interesting and gave you some food for thought. We now have time to answer some of your questions. If you have any questions about the functionality in Ciphr, about talent management a little bit more generally, just send them in using the chat function in the webinar control panel. I have one question to kick you off, Claire. What is the reporting capability within this talent management module?
Okay, so we essentially work on the basis that anything that is in Ciphr can be reported upon. So all of the data you're capturing as part of any of those processes could be reported upon. We have a standard suite of reports of, off the top of my head, I think it's 140 reports that are standard built into the product. Some of them will obviously be specific to this module. You also have the ability to use Report Writer, so you could create any of your own reports, or a separate module called Ciphr Decisions, which is a way for you to get really quick analysis on data in the system. So yeah, there's plenty of options around reporting.
Okay, brilliant. Got some nice questions coming in. Alison asked, will it be possible to sorry, I've just lost it. Transfer over existing reviews and objectives that we already have in Ciphr to this new setup?
Sorry, so transfer over existing objectives
and reviews that are in Ciphr to the new. So if they were to upgrade, could they transfer those existing ones into the new module?
I would imagine so. I would have to go away and triple check, but I can't see why that would be a problem. We have various ways of importing data into the system for all of our other modules, so I would imagine that is achievable. Yes, so I'm going to say a tentative yes on that one. Okay.
Alison, we'll make a note for your account manager to get in touch and follow up with you on that one, because we've got your name against that question. James asked if we could have another look at the flight risk grid, please. Are you able just to nip back to those slides, Claire?
Yeah, absolutely. So this works on the same basis that the 9-box grid works. There'll be a calculation in the background that will then populate whichever, it's a low, medium, high rating against the probability and impact, and that would then populate in that way. So you can rename them. Internally we don't actually use those terminologies. We have a completely different set of terminologies that we use internally around our internal flight risk analysis, but again allows you to drill down to an individual level.
Okay, great. Hope that's helpful, James. Kim and a couple of other people asked if there's a date for the release of this module or making it available to existing customers.
So it's basically available now. We are taking orders for it now. So we have got new employees, new customers that are coming on board that are having the talent management module implemented as part of their implementation. So as far as I'm aware, this is available to start having conversations with your account manager, or obviously if you're a potential new customer, with us direct, and we can start getting that mapped in for you.
Okay, fantastic. And as for I have a couple of people asking about costs. I assume that's something to follow up with your account manager separately, rather than us.
Yeah.
We can't just give you a number off the top of our head on the webinar, because you're all different organisations of different sizes and record numbers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so please do just speak to your account manager or contact someone at Ciphr. Yeah.
Okay, great. Neil asks, can you just clarify, are you able to manually add staff to a succession plan for a role?
Yes. So here we have the succession plan, which obviously I've mentioned, gives an overview of all the roles that you're building talent pools for. We then have an overview in specifically this distribution manager role, where all of the roles that report into that person has been populated, and that add successor button that you can just see on the top left is where you would go in and manually add any additional successors for positions.
Okay, fantastic, thank you. I have a question from Karen. She says, can you cascade corporate goals from the top so that everyone has the same goal? So if, for example, she wanted to make sure everyone has a health and safety related goal, can this be pushed down and appear in everyone's goal setting?
As far as I'm aware, there isn't a way to create that as standard. I will go away and triple check that. However, I'm sure it's something we could help you with through our services. So we can do lots of work behind the scenes on your behalf to make sure they're set up for you if that was something you wanted to do. Okay. But I will go away and check that one.
Okay, all these questions we are recording that you've noted them, and your name and your email address, so we absolutely can follow up with you afterwards, so don't worry about that. Gillian asks, they have objectives and key results. Can we have additional columns to drill down to display and rate against both of these?
Sorry, can you repeat that? Against objectives?
Yeah, we have objectives and key results. Can we have additional columns to drill down to display and rate against both of these?
Potentially, yes. As I say, we are doing more work around the objectives, so that I'm going to say not at the moment, but this is kind of version 1 of our talent management, and as I say, we're already implementing this with various organisations who are giving us some fantastic feedback about how we could develop it further. So we're very, very keen to take that on board so that we can make sure that the next round of development includes as much of that flexibility as possible. So I will make sure that that's fed back to our development team, and we can obviously come back to you to let you know if that's already on the roadmap.
Okay, thank you. Just to reiterate a couple of the things that people are asking me about. So if you're an existing Ciphr customer, there will be an additional cost to upgrade your existing talent management functionality that's part of the standard Ciphr to this new version, but that's something you would need to talk to your account manager about that additional cost for you. And if you have missed anything in this webinar, the recording will be emailed to you tomorrow, and you will be able to rewind, pause, sort of dive into that at your leisure, basically. And of course, if you have any additional questions, you can always contact either your account manager if you're an existing customer, or contact our sales team, and they will be able to give you more information. So I have another question from James. He says, can we get the photo at the back of our review screen like your example? So that's a branding question.
Yes, yeah, so we can do branding to meet whatever your personal corporate needs are. That's absolutely fine.
Yeah, okay, great. And Jill asks, is this available as part of the existing product, or is it a separate module?
No, it's part of the existing product. It's an additional module as part, yeah. Sorry,
yeah,
Cathryn,
so it's an upgraded module that you would have to purchased separately in addition to Ciphr, but it's not available as a standalone module, in case anybody is wondering if that's available. It's available as its own sort of product. Okay, right, let me have another look through these questions. Cathryn asks, can you be more specific about the standard reports that are available?
Not hugely, in the sense that I haven't actually had sight of those yet. I work closely with our development team to look at the sort of metrics we want to make available, so I can get a list of what those reports would typically include. I'm more than happy to circulate those to you.
Okay, great, thank you. Can the based appraisal form be used for 360-degree feedback?
Yes, you could do. Yeah, is you can create the base form to have whatever you would want in there, and you can push it out to multiple peers as well. So you would obviously have it as being the employee and the immediate line manager, but then from a peer perspective, you could push that out to several additional people internally if you wanted to.
Okay, great. On a couple of the screens you showed, Claire, it mentioned kudos points. Are you available to tell us a little bit about what they are and how they might work?
I can attempt to. It's not my area of expertise. This is something that's relatively new. The kudos points, as far as I'm aware, are literally a way to praise other employees. So you can go in and select employees that you wish to literally award kudos to for a job well done, whatever that might be. And then you have a kudos rating board, a kind of tally board, whatever you want to call it, so that it has a list of employees that have got the most kudos in a period of time and what they potentially relate to. So that screenshot is just pulling through any that relate to that individual employee. But again, if you speak to your account manager, or I'm sure we might have some marketing information that we can make available to you in relation to that.
Okay, thank you. I have a question. What happens when old objectives influence the scoring of recent ones to affect where they sit in the grid? In case performance deteriorates or improves?
Sorry, Cathryn, could you just repeat the start of that one?
Yeah. What happens when old objectives influence the scoring of recent ones to affect where they sit in the grid, in case performance deteriorates or improves?
So all of the historical objectives are stored. The only ones that will be pulled through as part of the actual review process are any that are live. So if you have closed off a previous objective, I guess the only way you'd be able to look at measuring that performance is to create a new objective, which is more of a monitoring objective in relation to the same thing. But they do work on the basis of either being opened or closed, and if they're opened, that's where you would continue to track progress.
Okay, a follow-up question from Cathryn on that one. You said during the webinar it wasn't possible to close objectives. I think perhaps that was through a certain screen rather than not possible to close them at all.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Just on the screen that I'm showing right now, this screen is specifically about rating current open objectives from a manager or an employee perspective. If, however, we were to go, so for example, this screen in the employee dashboard, which the employee or the manager could view, here is where you would be able to go in and actually close the objective had that been completed. If I just whiz right back to the beginning where we set up an objective, here, so you would be able to go back into, if you selected on any of the objectives for the employee that you can see on the screen here, here is where you'd be able to go in and track either if that objective has been completed up on the top right hand screen here, so whether it's completed and the completed date, or you could go in and just add the tracking notes in relation to those.
Okay, thanks, that answers that question. We have a GDPR related question. Would an employee have the right to see the information you hold on them about flight risk and 9-box grid in response to an information access request or a subject access request?
Yes, yeah, I would suggest they would. As part of any subject access request, obviously they'd have the right to view any data that you hold against them. You could, if you wanted to, make that information available to them from the outset. Typically, I haven't known organisations do that because obviously it potentially prompts a lot of questions. It may be that you want to open it up so that employees complete that on themselves, but yes, from a GDPR perspective, if there was a subject access request, I would assume that would be have to be made available to them.
Okay, fantastic. And we have another question about availability. Do you have to be using a specific version of Ciphr in order to use this module?
So this is from our system version 9 onwards, or 9.1, I'll have to check, which over a quarter of our customers are currently on. We are also upgrading all of our existing customers onto this version if they aren't already on it. So that plan's in progress, but it's essentially, if you were on any previous version where this wasn't available, we would look to prioritise your upgrade so that we can make sure everything's available to you immediately.
Okay, thank you very much, Claire. That's kind of all we have time for, and we've answered all the questions that we've had in so far. If you are an existing customer and have more questions about this module in particular, please contact your account manager or use the exit survey at the end of this webinar to opt in for more information, and we'll make sure they contact you. If you are new to Ciphr and would like to find out more about the talent management module or our other products and services, either get in touch with us by emailing info@ciphr.com, or again check the option that's available at the exit survey at the end of this broadcast. Thank you very much for being an engaged and attentive audience. Thank you, Claire, for sharing your expertise. Our webinar schedule is going to take a brief break during the summer, but we should be back in September with a whole new lineup of great webinar topics. We will keep you posted on those. So have a great summer, and we hope to see you then. Thanks very much. Bye.